All right. So as you can see, part of the kindness of self-compassion is positive self-talk. Self-talk is basically your inner voice, that voice in your mind which says things that you don't necessarily say out loud. Often our self-talk happens when we don't even realize that we're doing it. It can be this subtle running commentary that's going on in the background of our mind. But you know, the words that we say to ourselves really, really matter. They make a difference in our feelings about ourselves and our outlook on our experience and our environment. If our self-talk is always negative, it'll negatively affect how we view our own capacity or our agency in our own lives. But if we notice our self-talk, we notice that it's negative and we change it to more compassionate messages, like instead of saying, I messed it up, say, I'm still figuring it out. I'll get there. That can help us to become more hopeful. You know, it takes practice and it takes time and effort to change our thinking, especially if we've had a lot of negative thinking over a lot of time. But we might need to fake it till we make it. So it might not even feel natural to you to say positive things to yourself, but still do it. Over time, you will be able to change some of that thinking and you'll start to feel it too. It can happen. It's important to remember also that we have so many great qualities, skills, and strengths that have gotten us this far. So that's strength spotting. It's another skill that you can build to identify strengths in yourself and others. So one way we can do it is just to sit down and reflect, make a list of all of our great strengths, skills, and qualities. However, we're talking about resilience. Research has found that strength spotting is even more effective when we think of strengths and helpful qualities that we demonstrated when we were going through a hard time or a challenge in our past. So we reflect on something tough that happened to us that we went through and start to think, how did we get through it? What strengths or qualities or characteristics carried us through that? In one study, people who actively recalled the personal strengths that got them through a tough time found it was easier to assess a negative situation and view it in a different light. So in this way, as you see evidence of your past strengths, you're going to feel more confident in your ability to manage future challenges. And this is a resilient worldview. It's a resilient way of thinking. We're going to wrap up this little section by doing a brief self-compassion exercise together. So as you think about everything that's going on in your life right now, what encouragement do you need to hear? What do you need right now? Think of one simple phrase of encouragement, a phrase of kindness, starting with, may I. That's going to speak to something you're going through right now. So what do you think? Can you put into the chat one phrase that you really need to hear right now? May I. What do you think? May I forgive myself. May I care for myself. May I get a good night's sleep. What do you think you have? What do you need to hear right now? May I have the capacity and energy to work through this week and impact others positively. That's a good one. Yeah. You know what you need. Think about what you need and then offer yourself that wish, that encouragement, and that kindness. May I have the strength to be kind to myself, someone put. Absolutely. Continue to reflect on giving yourself what you need to hear. You're full of a lot of good compassion. Share it with yourself. Okay, we're going to go into our next part, the final area of resilience that we're going to look at today, and that's coping. You know, of course, in those moments where we're faced with overwhelming stressors, so we know that stress gets us motivated and gets us going. And that's good. It's very helpful when we need to protect ourselves from a serious threat, or when we need to get through a challenge. But it can be unhelpful in those moments where it's overwhelming and it stops us from being regulated, it stops us from being focused, and where we might need to have focus and good executive functioning and thinking. When it's overwhelming stress, it's not the greatest. We're not able to figure things out. So it's not always easy to manage our body's stress responses. But when we're talking about coping through stress, we can engage in coping strategies that help us to manage and reduce our feelings of stress so that we can get more regulated and kind of feel more back in control. And we're going to discuss a few simple strategies that we can turn to when feeling stressed. With any of these strategies, and you may have heard of these things before, but we want to encourage that you practice these things regularly in times when you're feeling calm so that you'll easily turn your attention to them in times when you're stressed, okay? So the things we're going to be talking about, we want you to practice them when you're not stressed so that you know how to go to them, you know how to get your body into those places, you know how to access those things when you are stressed. And these things really work. Again, they're simple, but we are changed by these simple practices every day. It's not always easy to turn our mind away from our anxious thoughts and our feelings. When we're overly stressed, our brain is on autopilot. It's going through that list of daily demands. Our stress kind of disconnects us from the present moment, and we get stuck thinking about the past and worrying about the future. But we can train our brain to move its attention from the constant busy narrative in our minds towards simply experiencing what's happening in our bodies, or in the moment, I mean. And this is mindfulness. Mindfulness is that state of being where we just maintain a present moment awareness. We are aware of our thoughts, our feelings, our bodily sensations, and the surrounding environment. We sit in the present moment, open and without judgment or conclusions. And it sounds simple, but some people compare it to a superpower. So we are going to watch, I know I'm looking at the time, we are going to watch this video about how mindfulness can help us when we experience stress.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, we'll send you the link to this video. You mentioned meditation as a form of mindfulness, and it is, but it's not all mindfulness. We can also call meditation just stillness practice, where we just practice being still, being aware in the present moment. For some people, mindfulness and meditation are spiritual practices, but for some, they're not spiritual at all. But just like the video says, mindfulness has proven benefits for everyone. In the video, it was suggested that we focus on our breathing. But with mindfulness, we can focus on a number of different things to help us stay in the present moment. We can even focus on other senses that we have. We can ground ourselves through things we can see, hear, feel, smell, even taste. And this is an activity, we're not going to do it, but it's a really quick one that you can access it, and it's great with kids and people of all ages. If you're feeling kind of pulled out of the moment, just do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause. Maybe even take a breath and go, what are 5 things I can see? Maybe things I didn't notice before. And you just stop and you just notice your environment. 5 things you can see. 4 things you can hear. 3 things you can feel. 2 things you can smell. 1 thing you can taste. This type of activity where it pulls us kind of out of our anxious thinking and into our environment, it helps us turn our focus away from our anxious thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and into the present moment. Another way we can cope with stress, you've probably heard this before, is through deep diaphragmatic breathing. Because when we're stressed, we tend to breathe more rapidly and more shallow. But that deep belly breathing can reduce our stress response by increasing the supply of oxygen to our brain and lowering our heart rate. It stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system and it promotes a state of calmness. So I'd like you all just to do it with me. Let's have one nice big deep breath together. So get comfortable, put one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. We're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. And when we breathe in, we want our belly to extend a bit further than our chest so that we know we're getting a good deep breath. With breathing exercises, make sure that you exhale for as long or even a little bit longer than you inhale. So let's take a nice deep breath together. Deep breathing is a wonderful way for you to cope through a stressor. And it's great to do before you have a stressor, or if you're anxious about something coming up, within a stressful moment, and after you experience stress. And it's a great tool. And it's, again, it goes with you wherever you go. It's a great tool to access immediately. Muscle relaxation, another simple way to release stress. So again, what we do with this is we tense up one muscle group. Maybe it's our shoulders. We tense up for a while. We hold it there. Then we relax our muscles, release that tension, and notice how it feels. And then we move on to another muscle group. So we might start from go to our head to our toes, toes to our head, but one muscle group at a time, tense and release. We also can cope through in other ways of soothing our senses. So we engage our senses in activities that we find enjoyable or soothing. So with our sense of sight, we might go for a walk and see the beauty of nature, change the lighting in the room, that can help us, or look at some of our favorite pictures. With touch, we could feel the softness of our pet's fur or change into comfy clothes. For smell, we could smell the flowers or smell some good food, or even, for taste, back to taste. For taste, we could drink some water, chew some gum, or have a snack. Smell, we can smell some flowers, or a candle, or a piece of orange, or some mint, or a nice tea or something. And for hearing, we can listen to some really good music, listen to the sounds of nature, or even block out jarring sounds with some white noise or ambient noise. So we can, again, help soothe ourselves and calm our stress responses and cope through stress by going, how can I engage my senses differently? Changing our environment, changing what's coming in. One other coping strategy we want to touch on is gratitude. It's that spirit of thankfulness and happiness where we become appreciative of the positive things in our lives, big and small. By focusing our attention on all that we have and all that we have around us, we become more appreciative and hopeful. And studies show that gratitude can lead to reduced anxiety and depression, strengthen immune systems, better sleep, stronger relationships, and less feelings of loneliness and isolation. So in other words, gratitude can really foster a resilient mindset. So here's some ways that we're going to talk about simply incorporating gratitude into your day. Again, it changes your brain By intentionally engaging in these practices, it helps our brain interpret the world differently. It actually changes our focus. It increases positivity, optimism, and happiness. 3 good things is just where every day you think of 3 good things that happened to you today, maybe at the end of the day, or in the beginning of the day, 3 things you're looking forward to. They don't have to be big or really important, but you write those things down and then you kind of sit with that feeling of why those things make you feel good. You reflect on that. An appreciation journal, it's like 3 good things, but you might go a bit deeper and spend a bit more time writing down something in your day or your life that you appreciate. Gratitude jar, it's a very simple thing. With this, when you think of something you're thankful for, you write it down on a slip of paper, put it in the jar. Then when you're feeling a bit low, you can open the jar, read the papers, and be reminded of all the goodness that you have in your life. A gratitude tree is like the jar, but it's a bit more visible. You can draw a tree with paper or bring in an actual kind of leafless branch and then bring it into your home. And you can create paper leaves where you write things down that you're grateful for and attach them to the branches. This is a great exercise for fostering gratitude as a family. Another thing that we could have as kind of a gratitude process is expressing kindness to other people. Whenever we do a random act of kindness for someone, or maybe not so random, write a thank you note, just do something for someone else, send them an encouraging email, that actually changes our brain as well. It helps not just the other person, but it helps us to foster a more positive and optimistic viewpoint of the world and people around us. It actually gives us more feeling of control and agency. So we're going to just talk about now, we've talked about connecting, we've talked about ways we can care for ourselves, and we've talked about ways we can cope. And we're just going to wrap it up by bringing them together. We want you not just to hear this information, but we hope you take some time after this presentation to focus on your own resilience plan. So first, as you reflect on the different areas of your life, emotional, physical, spiritual, relational, any area of your life, focus on different areas and just sit with your feelings around that area for a moment. And think about what are those key areas that could use a bit more attention. Then in one of those areas, pick one. So let's say I wanted to work on my relationships. I would think, what can I do in that area that might increase connection, increase care, and increase coping in that area? So you can come up with a long list if you like, but we encourage you to just to think maybe of 1 or 2 things in each section and practice it until it becomes a part of your routine. For instance, if I wanted to change, improve my physical wellness, I might think, how can I bring connection into that? Well, I'm going to walk the dog with my neighbor after work. How can I bring care into that? I'm going to take care of myself by getting to bed by 10 p.m. at least 5 nights a week. How can I bring coping into it? I'm going to take some stretch breaks every half hour at work to kind of help me with that stress through the day. Or maybe if it was emotional, I might have a visit with a close friend once a month to add some connecting. For caring, I might have everyone share one thing they're thankful for every day with that gratitude. Or with coping, I might at work take 5 slow, deep breaths before I have a big meeting. We can plan these moments of resilience into our day, these moments of connecting, coping, and caring. Even taking one positive step in our own resilience plan can make a really big difference. And we must remember that small positive practices repeated over time can have great results and are going to lead to greater wellness and better resilience. Like tiny seeds with potent power to push through tough ground and become mighty trees, we do hold innate reserves of unimaginable strength. We are resilient. So remember, when we strengthen our resilience through connection, caring, and coping, we can do more than survive. We can thrive. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. It is 7:30. This is who we are. Renata and I are part of the CYF Caregiver Education team. So that's our website there, and we'll send that to you in our link as well. The link that was put into the chat, thanks Renata. So you can go to that link and you see a number of different resources, including information about our programs and link to this website. So you can see other sessions that we have coming up. We have some in the summer coming up about going back to school for our kids. So there's the link. Also, we wanted to note again, thanks that we get get to be a part of this. And you see, we with this Breaking the Silence, there's the Heart to Heart campaign. So EPCOR's Heart and Soul Fund will match donations up to $20,000 until July 31st. So dollar for dollar, your donation will be doubled, and so will your impact. So do please continue to support these efforts through the Mental Health Foundation. And thank you to all the sponsors for this wonderful couple of days, this time together. All right, I think that's everything from us. You know, I don't know if other people can stay for questions, but we will be here if you have any questions that you want to add, or there's our email address, CYFcaregivereducation@albertahealthservices.ca, if you have questions about what we do or questions about tonight's presentation. If you have any questions that are really very personal about your life that are going to take a little bit more time with someone who can spend time with you, getting to know you, then you are welcome to call our intake services for adult mental health at Access 24/7. They are 24/7, so you can give them a call at that number there. Or if you have a child in your life who needs some mental health or addiction supports, you can call the intake line at Child and Adolescent Intake Services there. The number is there, and they can definitely help you to at least get some understanding of what supports are available and what your next steps might be. So I'm told here that the webinar is going to be up for another 15 minutes. If you do have any questions, we ask that you put them into the Q&A, and Renata and myself, we will stick around. So if anyone has any thoughts, put it in there.
Wonderful, Candace. Just jumping back in here to say, with much gratitude and thanks to both yourself, Kathy, and Renata, for that wonderful presentation. Self-care is something that is near and dear to my heart, and a concept that I take out to anybody I have the pleasure of working with. Quickly, before I let you go, my little tagline is, self-care means giving the people you love the best of you instead of what's left of you.
That's right.
So, yeah, thank you so much. And as Kathy mentioned, they will be hanging back, both Kathy and Renata, for the next 15 minutes. Please feel free to chat away with these ladies. Thank you again so much.
All right, so we can answer your questions here if you or your thoughts. We can have a discussion if you want through the Q&A. Or if you're not getting any kind of feedback right now, then we're just probably going to turn off our cameras, but we will, the session will still be on. So if you're still thinking about it, you can definitely put your questions in the Q&A, and we will respond in the Q&A. Any other thoughts, Renata?
Just that if you care to remain anonymous when you send us a question, there's just an anonymous checkbox. So you just check that and you'll be anonymous. Otherwise, any questions you're sending our way are private, and we'll just be responding privately. So it's all kept confidential.
Great. And I'm just putting the link for our resources for the session back into the chat. It's just because the chat's gone up a little bit. So if you do want to go check out those resources, go to that link, and it will have a handout kind of covering the main points of our session, but also numerous websites, apps, books you can go to on the subject of resilience and all the different things that increase our resilience, self-compassion, and all sorts of things. So there's a lot of information there that you're going to get if you go to that link. Yeah. We really appreciate you coming tonight, and we really do hope that you take this information and actually apply it to your life, that you really reflect on what you're doing. I know we all feel that this type of care and connection and all these things, this coping, that we kind of have these resources, but where are you at right now? So do a snapshot for yourself, and we do encourage you to do some reflection this week so that you can increase your resilience.
Just small little steps, right? Small change leads to bigger lasting change over time, right? And so any little bit that you take from today that you might start applying to tomorrow or your week is big, is huge. So yeah. Do we want some music, Kathy?
I don't think we're good without the music, but we are going to turn off our cameras, I think. So we'll stick around. Again, if you do have questions, do put them in the Q&A. We don't need the music, but we don't also need to talk. So thanks so much for joining us tonight, guys. Have a great rest of your time this week. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate your presence and all that you're learning about this week and how you're going to apply that to your lives, for yourself and for your communities. And we thank you for your support of the Mental Health Foundation, the CASA Foundation, and all these other great supports that support our work and the work that's important in our communities. If you do have questions for our team, do email us at the email address there. Otherwise, we hope to see you at another presentation someday.
Take care, everyone, and tread lightly and gently.